Hey folks, check this shit out. This is a RISC-V laptop, the MUSE book made by SpacemiT, and a big thank you to SpacemiT for sending this to me, along with the previous MUSE card and MUSE Pi to try out, because they're doing some pretty cool stuff. And what I really like, besides the fact that it's RISC-V, is they really got to the market quick with RISC-V 1.0 and RVA 22. And that's the chip that you see in the BPI F3 now, the Milk 5 Jupiter. They're doing well, and there will be more of them on this channel, I assure you about that. So this arrived a few days ago. It's the KX312 model, which is 8 gig RAM, 128 gig SSD. I was hoping for 16 gig and 512. I was hoping for it to be blue, not silver, but beggars can't be choosers. And either way, the hardware is essentially still the same, and it has some pretty awesome features that we'll look into. So one of the questions that comes up often whilst I open this is the difference between the M1 and the K1. Now it's the K1 processor. That's essentially what it's called. And we'll see that in the documentation shortly. The M1 is just a variation of the K1, and it's got a better, I think it's BGA, as opposed to whatever the type of not ball grid array connection is. It's got a slightly thicker cap on it, and it allows overclocking. So it's just like the higher performance version, but it's still got the same X60 cores, and it's still got the same capabilities, NPU, everything like that. So if you're a little confused, that's why. So as you saw, the box is quite nice, as is the product. I was very impressed with that to start with. Comes with this little pack as well. You've got your reset and debug button, which I'll show you how it works. You've got your little packing list, overview of the IO expansion that we'll have a look at, little getting started guide, and warranty card. It's in English and Chinese, so they're supporting the Western and the Eastern users, which is great. Then this little box on the side, you have a male DuPont cable. You have USB-C connection. Now, from what I understand, this is also USB-C data and power. This thing doesn't take much though. I charge it with I charge and use it with a 15-watt charger. And then, if I can get this bastard of a thing out, got it. Comes with a decent little, what looks like a GAN charger. This is PD, it'll do up to 63 watts. It is US prongs, but this is also the type where if you've got any of those Australian adapters, or any other adapter, they do click in. It doesn't come with it, but you can get them on AliExpress and a few other places. I've got some lying around. Otherwise, you can twist these, as I've shown in the previous video, if you hate yourself and want to risk destroying a product. But just run it off normal USB, and honestly, it works a treat. If I grab a cable out now, here we go. So plug it in to, so you can see 5 volt. On the side here, it's in sleep at the moment. Yep, it's drawn 10 watts and charging. So, before I go any further, I do also want to thank PCBWay. So yes, SpacemiT sent me this. They're good sports and they're making great products. PCBWay keep this channel going though, and they have a really lovely team. They actually sponsor a lot of channels that I really like Phil's Lab, which I've learned a lot from about PCB design with some of my projects like Deep Sleeper. Check out the video about Deep Sleeper if you're curious. And they make what you see possible. They allow me to spend 1 day a week out of my day job doing this instead. So use the link below, go check out their website, especially if you're into design. You don't have to be into technical stuff to use their service, because they do 3D printing like I showed last time, and it can be really cheap. Like if you want to print something basic, what do I have? I don't think I've got anything on this computer. I showed you last time though how cheap it can be, and you can design on your iPad or in Fusion 360 and then get them to 3D print it, and it's awesome quality and it's cheap. If you do want to get into technical stuff though, they do have a lot of options. So they can even help you with your design. If you've got engineering questions, or you want to prototype something and you're not exactly sure what you're doing, they've got really good support. So click the link below so that they know that you're coming from my video, and go check out some of what they do. They've got promotions on all the time. They've got giveaways. They're going to the trade fair in Germany at booth A1163. As you can see, there's discounts here, and using the link below, you'll get $5 off your first order. So you can order some prototype PCBs and just pay for shipping. Oh, look, there's the booth. So Go and meet them if you're in Germany. Click the link to support them and support me. And thank you to them, to SpacemiT, and to all of you. Back to the product. So, looking at it first up, we have aluminium bottom. We have rubber strip at the back and the front, so it's grippy. I quite like that. Decent looking hinge on here, an aluminium top case. Minimal branding, just the logo. On the sides, we have the, that's essentially your boot mode button, so that puts into download mode so you can flash it again, which I've done a lot recently. This is your I/O expansion, which has I2C, UART, and something else I'm forgetting, which we'll look at. You've got your USB 3 point something. I'm not going to even get into the whole USB 3.0 naming. 3.2, 3.0 Gen 2, whatever the fuck they want to call it. So you got one on that side, type A, one type A on that side. Your headphone port, which I believe is a 4-pin TRS. You've got a on-the-go, well, it's like USB-C multi-mode port essentially, so you can charge it with that, but you can also plug devices in and use pass-through adapters. This one is your USB-C and HDMI, and then you have your SD card slot and your reset button. So, nice simple design, nice and thin too, compared to some others that I've seen. When you open it up, it is a matte screen, and I'm very happy about that. I hate shiny screens because of all the lights behind me. So, you've got a matte screen. You've got 3 little indicators for touchpad disabled, caps lock, and power. And you've got an all right laid out keyboard. It's, you know, in this kind of 13, 14 inch form factor, you don't have your number pad on the side. Power button dangerously close to the delete button. I love that the meta key is the RISC-V logo, but it's got most of what you need. Like, I use what's normally the 6 pad quite a bit for jumping to the start and the end of the line. And yeah, it is a nice notebook. So, if you're curious about this sort of stuff, I do a lot of it. Whilst you're here right now, just click like and subscribe so you learn more of it as I do it, or don't, I don't really care. But the majority of you aren't subscribed, and I find that really weird. I just release one video a week, almost always related to something RISC-V, SBC technology, but I've sorted out playlists now too. So, first things first, when you receive this, or when I received this one, it had Bianbu 1.0.7. Now, Bianbu, if we go and have a look over here, this is their operating system. So there's Bianbu Linux, which is the core, and then on top of that they have Bianbu Desktop, Bianbu NAS, and I think there's an OpenWRT build as well. So their documentation tells you what it runs on, gives you links to all the components. You can see the change logs and somewhere in here, yeah, the release notes. And they give you a lot of power over how you use it and what you want to use, even building your own. But it's handy that I show you what goes into it, and then you can see here, spaced Bianbu Desktop 1.0 is based on Bianbu Linux, which is their board support package. Now, issue I found coming with 1.0.7 is it was a little bit early, there's some things missing. So you can use do release upgrade or the software updater. On this, it's that one. I should probably edit that out where I type my password in. It is a temporary password anyway, but yeah, you can use the software manager on here to upgrade it. However, the fact that it's missing some packages means they still won't be included when you actually update. So you will want to flash it using the normal process, which I'll show you using Titan Flasher. Using, what am I going to use? I'm going to use Fast Boot this time. Titan Flash is very easy, and I'll show you a bit of that too. But you want to flash it and you want to go to either 1.0.15, which is, I think is my favorite, or on this right now I have 2.0.2. And the reason is that they're whole new builds. So 1.0.15 is very stable. 2.0.2, I had issues with the web browser in this and had to change some Chrome flags to get it working, but now it does actually play YouTube videos. It just won't finish the base mark test. So if we want to have a look at flashing it, over here in the documentation, for the firmware update tool, you've got the download links for Windows and Linux. Now this is going to give you Titan Tool version 1, Titan Flasher version 1. There is a release candidate for 2.0, which Milk 5 have listed, so I'll put a link below for that. But it is very straightforward to use. You install it, on Linux there's an app image, you might need to install libfuse, bloody download, failed, please continue. And then you just click Dev Tools. If it's in the right mode, you hit scan devices, it'll pop up there. You grab your zip file, it'll extract the zip file, and you hit start flashing. Really, really easy. I might actually show you that. I might get the app image going. So if we look back here, you know what? I'm actually just going to get some HDMI sorted out and then I'll come back to you. Give me a tick. All right, so as you can see, dual display works. What I'm just going to quickly do is make it mirror so you're seeing what I'm seeing. Now, I've tested all of this out. The sound works fine, the Wi-Fi works fine, the battery life I'm getting about 5 hours out of, which is pretty good, and you can charge it on bloody anything. The keyboard, I found some keys, I like that it's fairly tactile. Some keys, especially this left shift, I've had some sticky issues with, but nothing that's really bothered me. The trackpad though, I find very problematic. Now, it could be because it's humid here and my fingers get moist, but the trackpad's definitely been a problem for me. It'll occasionally not move, or with a single finger it'll think I'm scrolling and things like that. So if you've got the opportunity, just plug in a wireless mouse. This is something where, of course, they do listen to the community. They're very good at engaging and learning and developing. I mean, this is their first laptop and it fucking works good. So I'm sure that that'll be improved in the future version. And that's like a slightly sticky left shift and an average trackpad, which can also probably be fixed in software quite a bit, are my only major gripes, which I think is really impressive. Now, is that mirroring? Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, the fact that HDMI out even works out of the box, I think is quite impressive. Now, I have tried a lot of different versions of their software, from 107 to 1015 to 2 to 2.0.2. Caps lock is off. And I like that 2.0 and up have the 6.6.36 kernel. The reason that's really important here is A, it has much better RISC-V support, but B, it also has a better scheduler, or a new scheduler for the preemptive multitasking in it, which can make quite a bit of a difference. It's definitely more responsive. You can see there is some lag at times, especially with input. What I'll do is I'll plug my wireless mouse in, and that'll just be a little bit easier for me to deal with. So yeah, there is some very slight lag. That I feel like is mostly GPU. So these use the Power VR from Imagination Technologies, and I think you all know there's issues with MUSE and Vulkan and everything like that there. Now, I don't have it installed now, but the Vulkan tools do run Vulkan supported. If we go sudo apt install GL Mark II ES2 Wayland, it does quite well. In fact, I'm not even going to edit that password out. I don't use this password for anything other than testing shit out here, hence I'm not that bothered. Now, what is it doing? Apt update and apt install GL Mark II ES2 Wayland. So yeah, it's using Wayland, which is really good. There was one other thing I forgot to mention. The SD card slot is actually a little bit deep. I've got probably about 2 mil of nail there, 1.5 mil of nail, and I can just get the SD card in and out. It's easier if you can poke it in and out. It's one of those springy types, so it will just launch it to the moon. I should have one here that I can show you. Hang on, I've got one in this other bag. Yeah, no, I don't. Apparently I lost it. I'm actually running out of SD cards because I keep putting them in things and then losing things. So yeah, the SD card slot, just be aware that the SD card goes in upside down and it is pretty deep. So yeah, poke it with something if need be to actually click it in. But the SD card slot works well. I managed to actually boot to the SD. So even though this has an NVMe built in and a very well performing NVMe, I'll actually show you that now. If you've got a bootable SD card in, it will boot to that first. Now, if we are to go SSD, tools, benchmark, this thing has a fair bit of pace to it. You know, I'm just going to leave that at the defaults because I've run it for a long term and seen how fast it gets, but it sits pretty consistently around 0.05 milliseconds up to 0.08 and 750 to 830 megabytes a second. That's doing long samples. I did notice it performs overall, like the access time is less random in the newer kernel than it is in the older kernel. So close out of that, close out of that. Yes, I want to install that. This is freshly flashed. I flashed this just before coming out because I basically minced the entire system trying some stupid stuff. So what we'll see here, if we open up Chromium, this is the only web browser available on any of the desktop OSs for this yet. There are some limitations because of that, because there's really nothing this intense ported to RISC-V yet that's readily available. If we go Chrome GPU, we're going to see a few things missing here. Now, I've tested every combination of flag, basically. I've turned on Web GPU. I tried Vulkan, but I had some issues with that. Now, all I had to do to turn that on is go Chrome, flags, and there's one flag you need to turn on here. There's a lot that you can turn on. I've tried changing the acceleration options. I've tried disabling the unsupported GPU list and everything like that. I've tried changing it to use Wayland. I've enabled Vulkan. You'll see what I mean in a tick when I get back to it, but just unsafe web GPU support. And then that's pretty much all we needed to get it working. Given the limitations of some of the technology, like the driver's not fully fleshed out, there are some Vulkan issues. I think the OpenGL layer is complete and fully functional. That's why Wayland works really well. Anything using Vulkan or that's quite heavy does seem to lag a little bit at times. Like you can see here, it's struggling slightly to draw YouTube. So if we go back and we have a look at, there's Deep Sleep. I was just talking about that if you're curious. It plays YouTube videos, it full screens. It does lag a bit, but it's just like you can see here whilst you're loading the video. Once it's loaded, it works perfectly fine. There's just maybe a second or two lag if you're pausing it or full screening it. And these are things that can be addressed by software. This will be firmware updates and software updates. At this point, I'll say it's going to be those. See, it works. It's going to be the Power VR drivers and the Chromium build. So if we full screen that, give it a hot second. There we go. And it works. I'm pretty happy with that. So you could also probably hear the sound too. So this top part is plastic. I think that's a good weight reduction tool. Weight reduction, whatever you call it, method. Helps if I'm in a new... the keyboard is good for some people, not everyone. I mean, it's personal preference really, but it comes with everything you need as a developer to get started. And of course you can install VS Code or their preferred open source alternative. If we have a look back over here, go to the documentation, they do have a fair bit of information on, not here, somewhere else I found it actually. Might have been under MUSE Pi, but yeah, they go into a fair bit and it's fairly well supported all round. The other thing that I did forget to say though is that the screen quality, I don't know if you can quite tell there, but it's actually a very nice screen on the eyes. So they did quite well. The branding is a little bit inconsistent though. It's MUSE Book like I've used in the title and the thumbnail here. It's not this MacBook style. As you can see, there is definitely some mimicry going on, but that I'm not attributing to trying to copy any Apple products. I think it is actually a nice design, and if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Now, it does have a camera built in. I haven't tested that. I don't know why, I can't be asked. It doesn't have VLC on there, which I found a little bit annoying, but I have tested out most other things. So system resources, LibreWriter, everything like that. It is responsive. It can be used as an everyday laptop. The only struggle so far is the video playback. Now, as we saw on the side though, it does have that debug header. And if we have a look at this one, was it? K1 MUSE Book layout. No, that's the PDF. That's the file. That's the PDF. Must be this. So they've got a fairly good, there we go. So you've got your I2C pins, you've got two GPIOs, and then you've got ground, RxTX, and power, along with your fast boot button. So having this, if you're working on stuff like I do, where you're programming products like, where the hell's Deep Sleeper gone? Like this thing, and you want to plug it in and program it quickly, you've got your connections right there to do so, minus the pins, which I think is excellent. So it's almost bootstrapping the industry. Like you can use this to make more of this, so to say. Now, the last two things I'm going to show you now before we wrap up, keep this one fairly short and fuck, it's already 20 minutes long. Hopefully short and sweet, because I'm not going to edit it very much, is we will have a look at flashing it, and then we'll have a look at what's inside, because I'm curious and you probably are too. Let's get this app image going and wait for this download to finish, and I'll show you how that all checks out. One tick. Oh, you know what? I did actually forget to show you something. So, as I said, I did a lot of testing. So, straight out 2.02, I've got GLMark scores, Geekbench 5 and 6 links below, disk read, Web 3 crashed, couldn't get through that. Had some issues there, moved on, went to 1015. It's got a slightly older kernel, 6.1.15 I think it is. Ran all the tests, same stuff. It actually passed that though. Couldn't load a YouTube video though, so I thought I'd try some other OSs available. Went and grabbed the Milk 5 Jupiter build because it's still K1. First setup was better, but it did boot quite slowly. In the resource manager, couldn't see the CPU temp, but Chrome was hammering the CPU. It had the PowerVR drivers installed, but just wasn't doing it. GLMark 2, and yeah, I didn't Geekbench that. So then I tried to use Ambien for the F3 staging. It's an SD card installer, but I had issues booting to it. I didn't get video output, and then I CH rooted into it and tried to do some funky stuff, but ended up giving up on that one. So then I moved on to the Banana Pi F3 build for it, but then I have to burn an alternate bootloader for that. So no, this isn't really worth it for someone just using a product out of the box. So then I moved on to the Milk 5 Jupiter Fedora 41 build. All you do is just dump it on the SD card and boot it. It worked really well. The UI was really snappy, 6.6.36 kernel, but nothing that used 3D would render. So I had the drivers installed again. GLMark would launch, but it'd be an empty box. And there's no web browser installed, but I could install Chromium, but there's no UI rendering. So I thought Fedora 41 is actually really good, except for that bit, which I'm hoping they fix. Now that's linked to from the Milk 5 Jupiter documentation. Grabbed a copy of Deepin, built for Jupiter as well, I think. Copied the rootfs and bootfs to a Biombo zip image and then tried to flash it, but it just wouldn't boot. So gave up on that. Went back to Biombo desktop 1015 a second time and really started messing with all the different things that I could in the Chrome flags. And they're all like, 59 to 64 are all within your margin of error, within 10%. They didn't make too much difference, but I did find eventually that just leaving, what did I do? I'm pretty certain I just turned off the GPU block list and enabled WebGPU like I showed you before. I did also end up installing the 6.6.36 kernel in the older image. That I was pretty happy with. At that point, I thought I nearly got it how I wanted, but then I thought I'd give 202 a second chance. Went in, manually enabled WebGPU like I showed you, and then it worked. It still won't pass basemark, but given the newer kernel and scheduler and just slightly, all-round newer versions of all the software, I'm going to stick with 202 for now and see how the development goes. So yeah, I did test it extensively. I would love your input, especially getting rid of the issue with Chromium saying it's in sandbox mode. If you know an alternate web browser, I couldn't find a Flatpak build. I couldn't find any other resources other than compiling my own, and there'd be porting required. So into any input you've got there. Now I'm going to finish this download, get it ready to rip apart. I'll catch you in a minute. Righto, we're back and I've got everything sorted. So you got your laptop here. You've done something dumb and it doesn't work anymore. Did it a pile of times in my testing recently. What you're going to want to do is forcefully turn it off or shut down if you're already logged in or whatnot. When you get this little tool that we showed you before, you've probably got piles of them lying around, or just use a little paper clip. What you do then, there's a little button in here. You just press it lightly, like, can you hear that? Slight click. So anyway, there you go. And then you press the power button again, just for a second. It'll turn on this time, but you get your little power light, nothing on the screen. So now, get yourself a USB cable. I've got this obnoxiously long one that I ordered. That goes into the top USB port. I mean, both might work, but that top USB port. Then you want Titan Flasher and your preferred image. So if we jump over here, we've got Titan Flasher, and it may not see this device. It's under DevTools, by the way, USB download. Hit Scan Devices, that's your file. Then you select your zip file. So we're going to go into SpacemiT, and we have our desktop image that we just chose. It's going to decompress it. That's going to take a second. Grab a screwdriver whilst I'm waiting. That one should do it. And it is taking a moment here, but I do love the speed of, oh yeah, of course this is on my actual computer up there. I do love the speed of the SSD in this thing. I love the debug headers on the side. I think they've made a really good product. And something that's really important about things like this is it's going to encourage more adoption of RISC-V. So I'm hoping that when this starts becoming more common, we're actually going to see more people developing web browsers and software and fixing bugs and improving the scheduler and everything like that for it. The other question, of course, is where to buy it. Now, Erase are going to be stocking it. If you're in China, you can get it on Taobao, but Erase look like they're going to be stocking it. It says out of stock. It's meant to ship in July, but you can see here, it starts at $472 Australian, which in Freedom currency is $299 for the base model, which is just a bit less than what I've got. Oh, they don't even list the 128. It's still just as powerful though, with 8 cores and minimum 8 gig of RAM. So it's going to do what you need. And you've got obviously the blue option. Whilst I'm at it though, you know, waiting for it to finish extracting, check out my shop. If you're into this sort of stuff, I have a lot of RISC-V sort of products that you can tinker with, and my shipping I think is reasonable, and no expressive products. But I've even just got modules and tools and things like that if you need them, if you're doing a lot of tinkering and development. So come check it out, link to it below. This is pretty much all the stuff I use. I just buy in bulk now and list it here so that you guys can enjoy it too, because otherwise you've got to sometimes pay a lot of shipping. So back in our Titan tools, we also want to enable reboot after flashing and then hit start flashing. So it's going to ask me for my password apparently. It's going to basically flash everything you need. That's the downloader, then it flashes U-boot, then it flashes the boot partition, then it's going to flash the root partition. Now, whilst it's doing that, what am I doing? Desktop? No. Capture? No, that one. Got it. As you can see, it is also showing you on the screen itself what it's doing, which is pretty handy. I'm going to assume that HDMI doesn't do anything at this point. We'll try it though. No, nothing on HDMI. So this probably takes about 3 or 4 minutes, and it's going to reboot when it's done, and we'll be straight back into the operating system. You see there, 48 seconds, it's about 20%. Now I'll pause this for a minute, we'll come back when it's done and you can watch it boot back up. All right, she's just about done, and there we go, 315 seconds. So 5 minutes and 15 seconds, 5¼ minutes. As you can see, you get a nice little boot splash then, boots relatively quickly. And this is first boot as well, remember, it's just flash. So from what I understand, it does a few extra things on first boot. Just a black screen for some reason right now. Should probably unplug HDMI in case it's trying to use that. You gonna do something, bud? Yep, there we go. I'm not too sure what actually happened then. It's normally a bit quicker than that, but I'm used to it rebooting multiple times now while I'm messing with it. So you've got a nice simple boot splash there with their branding and logo, the Buy and Boo boat. I'm not even sure what that means, to be honest. Come on, Buy and Boo boat book, sort your shit out. People want to see your insides. It's already 28 minutes. Why is my phone ringing? Decline. Yeah, I think it does some things as detecting the hardware. It's probably even, yeah, it's doing a bit of stuff. So essentially, yeah, that cable is actually probably causing some problems too. It's doing a whole pile of things, configuring itself the first time, because this image, remember, can be used on any of their products, not just the MUSE book. It's their generic image, which works on the MUSE card, the MUSE Pi, the Banana Pi, BPI-F3, Milk 5 Jupiter, and so it's going to expand to fill the partition. It's going to configure itself with a few little things that's specific to that device. That's probably what that first reboot was as well. It might have booted up a little bit, pulled in the right device tree after it detected the hardware, reboot again, then it's doing the file system expansion. And now we're finally, I think, about to hit the operating system, starting GDM. There we go. And of course, you don't have to try to remember that it's always got a static password or that it's a certain user account. You don't have to have Wi-Fi or network or SSH to it to use it straight away. When it boots up, it is like a fresh install of a modern Linux operating system where you can join the network, choose your location, your language, create your user, and everything like that. That is not what we're going to go through now because it is self-descriptive and you've probably done it 100 times yourself if you're watching this video. What we're going to do is just quickly peel the back off and have a look at what's going on in there. Because I do work with hardware day in, day out. I'm a system and network engineer who also does PCB design, software development, YouTube videos, and every other fucking thing these days. 3D modeling, I don't know. What'll I do next? Who wants to suggest something that isn't moving to Mexico and just drinking beers on the beach all day? Glad to see there is thread locker on these screws. Something that's notorious working with laptops over the last decade or two is the screws that fall out the bottom. It happens a lot. Now what I'm going to assume here is that this aluminium bottom case isn't just for strength, but it's also going to be the heatsink. I'm unsure of whether or not this has a fan in it, but I'd assume it does because I have heard some little sounds from time to time. And I'm assuming that these two little holes here are going to be keyboard liquid drain. I'd love to swap this keyboard out actually for something that's just a bit quieter. Swap the touchpad out for one that's got better multi-touch. So we'll see how modular it is. There we go. All right, there is no thermal coupling there. It does look like, where do these holes line up? They're not actually drain, I mean, they could be drain holes, but they're not quite at the bottom. Normally some laptops like HP's will have a little funnel that goes through to the keyboard area. So I've got a decent sized battery here, 7.6 volt, 4800 milliamp hour. That's pretty decent. You got your flex going across to the IO board. What have they done there? Is that? Okay, so that's your speaker. Okay, oh, that's awesome. So you can, this is very good to know that if you have a problem, you can install your own NVMe. That is excellent. So that's the 128. I could swap this with anything else, but 128 is plenty for my needs. Most things are cloud, and it is quite a fast one, as you saw, nearly gigabit. So I'll leave that in there. I've instantly lost that screw. Oh no, there it is. Under here, all right, we have an aluminium heat spreader. So that is pretty much the MUSE card. Slightly different layout, of course, with the IO connectors. I'm not going to remove this thermal coupling here. There's no fan that I can see. You've just got your battery connection. That's your keyboard, mouse, trackpad, whatnot. IO board, and your standard grounding. It's pretty good. It's pretty straightforward. I don't want to have to reheat shield it. Wi-Fi is only single antenna. Oh no, there's a second one coming out going over here. So dual antenna. Good design, folks. I'm pretty happy with this. There's a lot of space over here too, of course, because these products, like if you look at the MUSE card, they're pretty small, and even, oh, that's empty. Hey, there's one of my SD cards. Sweet. I've apparently lost the MUSE. No, there it is. No, that's the Banana Pi BPI F3. Well, same sort of thing anyway. So you can see this, you could probably put a bigger battery in. There are some screw points here where they might be doing something different, but all in all, I like it. I haven't seen it thermally throttling. I haven't had any significant issues with it that either couldn't fix myself or can't be fixed in firmware. Everything works as described. Well done to SpacemiT for this product. Very happy. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I would love to help you out if you're getting started with one of these or if you get stuck. Feel free to reach out to their support team. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Click the link to PCBWay to support them. Check out their 3D printing or their module store or their competitions or their trade booths or their discount services. I don't use them because they're the cheapest. They're not. I use them because they're the best in my opinion. I try a lot of them. I always come back to them. I even tell them that. So hope you're all doing well. I hope this taught you something. Get yourself one of these when they're in stock at a race again, or Taobao, or I might stock them, but they're a bit outside of my normal scope. And take it easy.